Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Nigel. I'm just in from KubeCon. A little tired. This is my first time speaking since the before times. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of that. All right, so my first job out of school was as a developer advocate at IBM. I was a little over 2 years into my computer science degree, and I was going through one of the worst periods of my life. I had just transferred from my community college, which was in Oakland, California, to the University of University of California, San Diego, and yeah, just was not having a great time at all. Because of my involvement in the hackathon scene, thanks in large part to MLH, which is out there, and GitHub, who would take me around to go talk to students about starting their own hackathons or giving them support for the ones that they were at, the transition into the field of developer advocacy was pretty smooth. I didn't know it existed, and the more that I participated in these events, they're just like, hey, you would make a really great developer advocate. So when I decided to leave school, fortunately, this was it made a lot of sense. It was a pretty smooth transition. This photo was taken right before my first talk in New York City at Astor Place, which is where one of the IBM offices is. This is my friend Nick. Nick is one of the first people that I met when I worked at IBM. I chose this picture because I think it adequately sums up his personality. This is not one that I chose to make fun of him at all. This is actually the profile picture that he uses in the company-wide Slack workspace for IBM. He is a brilliant engineer, a very strange and a very funny man, and one of my favorite people. And one thing I love about him is that he makes a lot of really cool projects that are throwaway. Like, he'll have an idea, hack on it, and then the repo will be sitting there. And it encouraged me to work on things and feel like a professional engineer as this college dropout who didn't know what I was doing. And there was one day that he commented on one of my pull requests that made me feel like I was crushing it. I thought that I know that this is right for me because this comment made me so excited. And the comment that he put on the, oh no, my slide's missing. Oh well, let's see, what do we do? Well, it's okay. The comment that he put on my slide, or on my PR, said LGTM, and it's the title of my talk, which is my title slide that's missing, which means to all of you, what does LGTM mean? Let's get that money. No? Just me. Okay. Hence my confusion. Nick, this person here, on my PR was like, yeah, man, that's so tight, let's get that money. And I'm like, I'm doing amazing. But yeah, as I soon realized after my manager also used the same phrase on my PR, I was like, wait, this probably means something different than I think it does. And I went and looked it up and realized, yeah, it actually means, for a lot of folks in tech, looks good to me. So this talk, I'm Nigel. I'm an open source community manager at VMware. And this talk makes a case for being more careful in our language and recognizing that just because we understand it or it looks good to us doesn't mean it looks good to everyone else. I'm not a linguist. I'm a person who loves language and who transitioned into tech from a few different industries. And I have some stories about when these assumptions go wrong and some propositions for how we can move forward with a more collective and inclusive vocabulary. As a takeaway from this presentation, I hope you leave with a better appreciation for etymology, some funny stories, and serious considerations for how we can better communicate. Acronyms are everywhere. We have gotten so used to them that some words we don't even realize are acronyms. How many people know that laser is an acronym, like a laser pointer? More than I thought. Scuba, also an acronym. Yeah, they become so much a part of our vernacular that we don't even recognize that other people don't understand what it is that we're referring to. When I was in the military, which was my first career, it felt like every other word was an acronym. Your AFSC, your job, SITREP, situation report, FUBAR, when things are really messed up, snafu, when FUBAR becomes what you kind of expect. OTF, you left when you weren't supposed to, or RTFM, which is a polite request to check the documentation. The list goes on and on and on. And the difficulty is that well, some of them have made their way into the mainstream with some brilliant crossovers. This meme format made the rounds a few years ago. So if you've never seen this meme before, the way that it works is this is the NATO phonetic alphabet. Every letter has a word associated with it. So the way that you read this is that you take the first letter of every word and start to form the words along the way. Some of you are shaking your heads at me because you've already realized what that says. I apologize in advance. But some of these have made the rounds, and understanding them has this effect of helping us feel like we belong, like we're part of this in-group, like we know something, like almost clandestine like knowledge. But it also has the effect of excluding people that don't already understand. For those of you that didn't get it, that's a Rickroll there. There is far, far too much in the world to know. Every time I come to one of these conferences or have any sort of conversation, I realize just how much I don't know about things and just how passionate everyone is about what it is that they know. And we're doing ourselves and our passions a disservice by making things more difficult than they need to be. Some of the dangers are this exclusion that I've talked about. I have a really hard time feeling belonging in just about every space that I'm in. And feeling like there's so much that I don't understand, especially things that it seems like everybody else already knows, only makes that effect a lot harder. And if we want to make technology that solves problems for a large cross-section of society, the best way to do that is to have that cross-section of society represented in technology. And the way that we do that is meeting people where they are and giving them an on-ramp to understand what it is that we're trying to communicate. One of the other dangers is that you can get a lot of noise. I have a juvenile sense of humor. I'm very well aware of it. There are some things that I think are hilarious. So a few weeks ago, you may have all seen the senator talking to the VPs at Facebook, asking them to end Finstas. And in the comments of that, other people would say, you can ask me after what these things mean because it's not appropriate to say out loud. But they were asking about are they gonna end BOFA next? And what happened was someone tagged this account underneath, BOFA help, or B of A help. Ask someone later if you don't know what that means. But you get a lot of you would get a lot of noise like this that could have been avoided by just looking up whatever your shorthand was and recognizing that that means something entirely different to a whole nother group of people who will drag you online and tag you as much as they can and create noise that makes it harder for you to do your job. So another case for staying away from these acronyms that don't immediately make sense, or to be more careful about what it is that you put out into the world. So what can we do? Tech is one of the worst offenders when it comes to explaining things in an approachable manner. I think it happens in two ways. There's a version where we make what we do seem much harder than it is. I'm not gonna call you out. And there's a version where we set too high a level of assumed knowledge, which is like, it's done in good faith, but a lot of times we're not very clear about what it is you need to know coming into a situation. So where are people supposed to start? One great thing we can do is being a lot more intentional with our language and providing resources for learners. Another thing that I recommend a lot is spending more time mentoring, because when you see how someone starts to understand what it is you're teaching, when you see how people learn, you're able to more accurately create content that leads them on the journey that you want them to go. You see people that misunderstand things in a way that you would have never considered. One of the cool things that I've seen VMware do, which is where I work now, they have this dictionary called WTF, but like WDT, like what to define is what we call it. And it's full of all of these acronyms that you just type in an acronym and it prints out, this is what this thing means. And I would love to see something like that as for the larger industry, or maybe some tooling that someone can build that, you know, you highlight over an acronym and it gives you all these different definitions. And one other thing that I would encourage you all to do is to create or find content that can act as prerequisites for yours. I'm not saying you have to do it all yourself, but figure out who it is that whose voices you can elevate that will help get these things across as well. The effort that we spend creating more inclusion in our industry is never wasted. One of the areas that I've been focusing on lately with inclusive language is to do with mental health. I think that we use too often a lot of derogatory terms for mental health to describe things in tech that are difficult, like crazy or insane. And I would challenge you to look up those words and see if they're accurate representations of what you're trying to convey. We're brilliant people. We can choose more intelligent acronyms. We can choose better adjectives. And I hope that you all will take the time necessary to do that. Thank you so much. Have a good conference.